Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. Your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And today, it's Monday, and you know what that means. It means we're answering the questions that you guys have submitted to us via our Instagram stories for Mailbag Monday, and you guys have really sent in some good ones today. It's going to be a really fun show. I cannot wait. But today it's a two-man show, and my co-host is Clark Taylor. Clark Taylor, how are you?
Oh, dude, I'm fired up to be here as usual on a Monday. Not only that, a Mailbag Monday, no less. We've got a letter. Shout out to Blues Clues. As usual, we got multiple letters. We're going to answer them. I'm stoked to get into it. Crazy weekend with the Rumble. It's officially Mania season. We got all kinds of good wrestling coming up here. We're on the way to Sting's retirement. We got the return of TNA. We got questions involving about everything you could ask for in a week's worth of professional wrestling. I can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely. And you guys might be wondering, where is everybody else today? Usually it's a 3-4 person show. Well, I'll tell you where they all are. They are all crying because their team is not in the Super Bowl, but the Chiefs are. We're going to the Super Bowl!
Down Kansas City, the Iceman himself, the Magic Man, Pat Mahomes, gets it done on the road, back to back. We'll take it all day. Lamar Jackson does still deserve the MVP, no doubt. It was a heck of a season out of the Ravens. That second game was just as crazy, man. Comeback City. I thought we might see a rematch of the season opener against the Lions, but not so fast, my friend. The Niners had something else to say, and we'll catch them with that rematch out in Vegas in a couple weeks. I can't wait.
I went to bed and Eminem was loving life. His team were up. I woke up and his team ended up losing, and Benzino dropped a diss track on him in 2024. What is going on? We got a few comments here. We got numero one Superfly. Shout out to you, numero one. We got Bobby Batito.
Bobby.
And we got a question from Anthony Manzano saying, "Hey Clark, how are you guys today? Is there a way that you can convince Ben to read my few questions that I've been sending on your Instagram story?" Anthony, I keep a lookout for them every week. They are never there unless you're submitting them too late. I choose the topics a few hours before the show starts every week. But honestly, if I see one from you, I'll do it. But they're never there. We got a few people on Instagram, from Rosterclo5 saying, "I'm saying this now before anyone calls Roman versus Rock. When Rock said he'd sit at the head of the table, he meant the news we recently heard about his new position in TKO. I mean, It's true. He's sitting at the board table. That is a fact."
I always pictured that table as round, but that's just me.
I mean, maybe. No, there's got to be ahead of it. And that place is where, Manuel sits, so tough luck, Rock. You're still going to be waiting to sit at the head of the table. But before we get into anything else, I've got a question for you, Clark. And that question is, do you know it or do you not? And you might be a bit confused right now because I haven't told Clark what this new segment is. But this new segment is a 45-second quiz every day where you have 45 seconds to answer as many questions to do with a random topic as possible. I'll read out the question. You answer it. If you get it wrong, I'll correct you. If you get it right, I'll move on to the next one. Or if you say pass, I'll immediately move on to the next one. So only if you get it wrong, I'll say the right answer, right? So if you don't think you're going to get it, then you might as well skip. But I do only have so many questions, so please do not just pass them all. But without further ado, Do you know it or do you not? Royal Rumble edition. Your 45 seconds starts now. What number did Jordynne Grace enter at?
4.
Wrong. 5. How many eliminations did Bron Breakker have?
6.
Wrong. 4. Who lasted the longest in the Women's Royal Rumble?
Bailey.
Correct. Who eliminated Jade Cargill?
Oh, shoot. Pass.
Who lasted the shortest time in either Rumble?
The shortest on the men's side would have been Pat McAfee.
Wrong. JD McDonough. Who had the most eliminations in the Women's Rumble?
Nia Jax.
Correct. I'll let you have that one. You slightly went over then on that last one, but I started it, so I'll finish it.
Oh, that's brutal.
That was not great. That was not a great first performance.
You know what was funny is I really blanked on Jade Cargill, and now it's bugging me. Who did actually eliminate Jade?
Liv Morgan.
It was Liv. Okay. The 4 and 5 thing, that one I'll never forgive myself for because I knew the answer on Jordynne Grace. That one threw me for a loop. But hey, you got to do your best.
You do. And hopefully you'll only get better each day, although every day will be a different topic. But today was the Royal Rumble. We have a few questions. I mean, we got a really interesting comment you on Instagram. Hey, Republiholics. What's up? Welcome to Wrestling Republic. And we are your hosts. What?
The Republicists? Nice.
I love it. I don't get it, but I love it. Brilliant. Thank you. Nowhere Gamers Chronicles. That certainly got a pop from me. Mitza711 on Instagram says Liv Morgan eliminated Jade Cargill. Yeah, that is indeed true. And Rastaclaw5 says he thought R-Truth lasted the shortest in both Rumbles. No, JD McDonough lasted 3 seconds in the men's Rumble, which is actually the shortest amount of time. But without further ado, let's get on to Mailbag Monday and let's get into the questions that you guys have submitted. And the first one is from @Jose99 on Instagram, who's asking, will we expect more crossovers between WWE and TNA? And if you guys remember, just a few weeks ago when, we were talking about TNA Hard to Kill, I suggested a partnership between WWE and TNA where WWE would send their older talents, right? And the ones who they're not using as much, but they don't want them to go to AEW. They send those talents to TNA. They help the younger talent in TNA. And then WWE gets first shot at some of the younger talents in TNA if WWE want any of them. And also WWE gets some of TNA's content in return as well. I thought that would be a very fair deal for both sides. But what a lot of people are throwing around the idea of is a Worlds Collide show with WWE and TNA, specifically NXT and TNA. And I would be all for this. I really, really would be. I think it's very mutual. It's going to benefit both brands completely. Because, I mean, look, NXT, it's very different to how it was a few years ago. It's back to where most of those people in NXT are very young. They're young and hungry. A lot of the guys in TNA are either young and hungry as well, or they're veterans. So I think that would be a great mix. It'll get, the NXT talent some great experience and be, mutually beneficial to both brands. I mean, absolutely TNA would benefit from it. It's just, you've got to figure out a way. I mean, no matter what they do, TNA will benefit. But you've got to do it in a way where WWE will benefit too. And a lot of people are saying, well, how about Moose shows up on Raw or something like that? And it's like, that is not beneficial for WWE at all. Most of their audience don't know who Moose is. They'd have to explain who that is. It gets all complicated and it's not even one of their talents. It would make no sense. But for WWE to send some of their older talents to TNA would help TNA, help the younger talent in TNA, help bring more eyes to TNA. And yeah, it's TNA Central, isn't it? But Clark, what about you? Do you think we could see more crossovers between these two brands?
This is a tough question because the word expect, I would say not anytime soon. Do I think we will? probably the Rumble makes a ton of sense. There's situations where it makes sense. An NXT type crossover thing makes sense. I actually think we're more inclined to see the other way and have some young talent from NXT appear on TNA. And I think that would be an interesting move, but I think we're more likely to see that soon to bolster TNA along the way before we potentially see something. You mentioned like the Moose on Raw doesn't really fit. I agree with that. But if somebody from NXT goes to TNA and all of a sudden we need to see the return match, that's when we see some crossover talent, whether it's heading to NXT or a main roster brand in WWE. Could be either or. There's a lot of talent in TNA currently that has worked in WWE in the past. There's a lot that haven't. I do think the reaction for Jordynne Grace was better than expected. The internet loved it. The crowd enjoyed it. She didn't get booed or it wasn't crickets by any means. People were pretty aware of who Jordynne Grace was inside of that ring on Saturday night. So I could easily see her crossing over, and based on, she tweeted or X'd that she's it's not the last time you'll see her in a WWE ring. And that to me is telling. I would love to see Jordynne Grace against a bunch of WWE superstars, but I think like an immediate sort of AEW and New Japan's Forbidden Door-esque pay-per-view or premium live event, even if it is NXT, isn't in the cards right away. I think we're looking at a lot of time between now and then still. I think this was sort of a special occasion thing. We saw Mickie James appear in the Rumble, in the past. And I think we would have seen maybe one or two in the men's Rumble had that not been the case. And I think
that's true.
I think we're a while out from actually seeing a true crossover event. One-off appearances, in my eyes at least, more likely than a traditional, like, the Forbidden Door's open and we've got NXT versus TNA or combined pay-per-view or premium live event or anything like that. We're more likely for a one-off than anything else.
What I was thinking was maybe, I don't know actually, because nowadays the WrestleMania weekend schedule is so full because of course, the fact they have SmackDown on Fridays. I don't know if TakeOver's on Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon this year. But on the other one, either Saturday or Friday afternoon, you could do maybe some of the younger talent, not like the top talent in NXT, right? Because they'll be on Stand and Deliver. But some of the other talents, have them face off against a few TNA guys, have it as a Worlds Collide. It's just an extra little thing. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Instead of some, large scale, big pay-per-view, I'm thinking a small venue like they did Worlds Collide NXT UK versus, I think, 205 Live or something like that a few years ago. Something like that, I think, could be very, very exciting. But yeah, you are right. And the reaction for Jordynne Grace shocked me as well. I think it was one of those things where the Royal Rumble is one of the biggest wrestling events of the year. So there's so many hardcore fans there. She came out, the hardcore fans reacted. Then the casual fans were like, well, they're reacting, so I better react too. Because she genuinely had like one of the biggest pops of the night. It was just absolutely crazy.
She did.
Dare I say she got a bigger pop than anyone in the men's Rumble? But again, by that point, the crowd were a little bit more dead. But it was so loud, I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely shocked. I mean, especially compared to Andrade. Andrade was crickets in comparison. It really, which is
stunning.
Yeah, maybe the mask actually didn't help Andrade, to be honest with you. I think people got a bit confused about who he was, even though it did say Andrade on the screen, but because of the angle, I've seen like some recordings, it was difficult to see the screen, the top where the Titantron is. So maybe they didn't know it was Andrade until it was too late, and obviously it was a new theme as well. That muddied the waters a little bit. We have a few comments here. We've got, this Nowhere Gamers Chronicles guy's fun. He's saying, should Cody take the WWE Championship to AEW and put it in the trash can?
Well, that'd be a wild move.
I mean, I wanted CM Punk to pull out the real world title and chuck it in a trash can, but no, I'm only joking.
Funny.
But I think Anthony, not the trash can bit, but Anthony did suggest bringing a bag out. That would have actually been quite a funny moment. there. We got Bailey asking who we think Gunther could face. We'll get into that later on today for sure. We're talking about predictions later on. Bobby Petito wants to see Mike Bailey and Masha Slamovich, who's amazing by the way, in a WWE ring. Yes, please. Take my money. Shard is also bringing up MK Ultra versus Caden and Quintana. I mean, that match is like, it's one of those matches where I don't know you'd call it a dream match, but like it's a match you want to see. You don't think about it until you do, and once you do, you want to see it. I couldn't agree more. That would be a fun one. Number 1 Superfly says Braun Breaker versus Moose. Oh, that would be filthy. Give me a bit of that. Spear Central. Yeah. And Nowhere Gamers Chronicle says WrestleMania main event is Roman versus Cody versus Rock. Well, we'll get into that a little bit later on. There's also some dirt sheet. There's also some information from the dirtiest dirt sheet in Dirt Sheet Entertainment in the chat. And as always, here at Wrestling Republic, we're dirt sheet free. We clean our bed sheets. We don't like those bed bugs like other wrestling sites.
Laundry.
Regularly. At least once a week, you need to clean those sheets. Yeah, it's not hard, right? A lot of these wrestling journalists don't know what deodorant is, never mind a washing machine, so they might not know. But, I mean, yeah, we don't acknowledge those here. Let's see what the comments are saying over on Instagram. Mike Hitman, Hart, Riggs, it says Cody versus Roman is the rematch 1 year in the making. Absolutely. We're getting a lot of comments here, guys. Thank you so much. Keep them coming in. But for right now, let's move on to the next topic. And this was submitted by our good friend Bobby Petito, who is asking, who do we want to see Jordynne Grace wrestle against in WWE if she was to compete in a WWE ring again? And this is a great question. It truly, truly is. I mean, the big one which just stands out to me is Bianca Belair. Jordynne Grace versus Bianca Belair, or even Jordynne Grace versus Charlotte Flair. Both of those, take my money, please. Triple H, I will watch that pay-per-view. I'll watch it anyway, to be honest. But I'll definitely be watching that match because those just sound mouth-watering. But Clark, what do you think about it?
To me, Charlotte Flair, or I was going to say Becky Lynch. I actually think Becky and Jordynne Grace would be just an outstanding matchup because Becky's worked so many different styles. Becky or Charlotte, I know you already mentioned Charlotte, but yeah, either of those two to me are at the top of the list, but there's a bunch of other names that I would be super interested too. Bianca is a great call, as you already mentioned, but how about Jade? Jade and Jordynne Grace would be super interesting. I would be all over that strength on strength, right? Like matchups, styles make fights, the old cliche, as it says.
Yeah.
And that stylistically is an interesting one, at least in my eyes. I mean, is a few others, and this is kind of a out of left field one, but Zelina Vega fighting from underneath, if Jordynne Grace is going to be the monster strength heel, that could be an outstanding match and a fun one. I think Zelina Vega on the other side of Jordynne Grace, especially because of the mic work, could be even more interesting. I would love to see that matchup, but you run down the list of the WWE roster and almost every name on the list adds up to an exciting matchup with Jordynne Grace. That is true. This is truly a difficult question. I mean, Bailey, who won the Rumble, we didn't even mention. I would love that. We've seen what she did with Naomi, who's off the charts, right? Trinity, or Naomi, I guess now, again. But either way, we've seen it in the past, and it's worked. There are a lot of really, really solid matchups, tasty matchups, as I would like to call them, for Jordynne Grace in the WWE Women's Division. All three brands. You even go to NXT and start breaking down that roster, and Jordynne Grace could have a monster run on in that roster, whatever it is. She could win a lot of matches and put a lot of people over in ways that are on the up and up. I mean, I look at Lyra Valkyria, and her would be a war. Would be a war.
Yes.
Would be an absolute battle, no matter who goes over. And so, yeah, that is a difficult question. But if I did have to pick two, I mean, Becky and Charlotte versus Jordynne Grace, properly built, those two to me stick out as like you're looking at sort of not the full blown face of TNA, the Knockouts division, but at this current moment, the face. And we all know how talented Jordynne Grace is if you've watched her career evolve and how great she's been the last I would say 2 to 4 years when it comes to best women's wrestlers outside of the WWE. She's been high on that list for a long time. And so to go after two of sort of the head honchos in Charlotte and Becky, to me, would just be really exciting.
Oh, it certainly would be. And also the other one you said, Lyra versus Jordan Grace. I mean, worlds collide. Give me that. Give me that. Champion versus champion. I mean, then it gets all political. That is one of those ones where you can't really do champion versus champion. But it would be such a fun match if either one of them drops the before then. Let's head back to the comments. Nowhere Gamers Chronicles want to see Grace versus Jade. Yes, absolutely. Shard says Bianca, Jade, Tiffany Stratton, and Ivy Nile. That's one I didn't think of. And of course, Bobby Petito, Grace versus Io Sky. Oh, that would be nice. Kairi Sane and Blair Davenport too. This division is stacked. It really, really is. And Shard is saying she's one of the top 5 women's wrestlers in the world over the last few years. And it ain't even close. Roxanne Perez too, adds Bobby Petito. I mean, Lord Virus disagrees with you on Instagram, Clark. I'm not sure what about, but something. But
can't win them all.
Yeah, you can't win them all. Not all the time people can agree with you. But Mitza711 does agree with you about Zelina Vega versus Jordan Grace, saying it'd be like a David and Goliath style match. Well, I certainly would be all for that one. But now, let's head to the next topic. And the next topic was sent in by It's Me Proteak on Instagram, and they are asking, do you guys think Jey Uso should be the one to dethrone Gunther? And truthfully, in an ideal world, I actually think Jey Uso would be a great person to dethrone Gunther. I really, really do. Jey Uso has become a top single star now. He's gone over as anything. It makes sense. Really, I'd have no issue with it. None at all. But in reality, this is getting, predicting the WrestleMania card later on. It's getting to that a little bit. But I think Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso will be facing off. And then after that, I reckon they'll be teaming once again. But who knows? Maybe post-Mania we do see Jey versus Gunther. But I don't think at WrestleMania. But post-Mania, who knows? Maybe Jey does win it. And then maybe him and Jimmy have a rematch. Then after that, they become a tag team. Who knows? It all gets a little complicated with fantasy booking from there. But could Jey Uso be an Intercontinental Champion? Yes. Could he be a great Intercontinental Champion? Also, absolutely yes. I mean, Clark, how are you feeling about this one?
I always hate answering a question with a question, but I've got to ask. If he does dethrone Gunther, does that make him 2 points better in WWE 2K24 than Jimmy? As opposed to only 1 point better overall wise. I mean, we had a 90 and an 89 last year. Are we going to get 92 and 90 maybe? I don't know. Jimmy and him have to settle their score before he does become an Intercontinental Champion. Do I think he's capable? 1,000%. Yes, of course. Jay's run's been outstanding, but we saw the Rumble. We saw the tease. This is about Jey and Jimmy right this second. It's not about titles. He's already got one more tag title reign than his brother. Jimmy's got something to prove. Honestly, the funniest part to me that I can't figure out about this whole thing, and this has less to do with Gunther and Jey than it does with Jimmy and Jey. But isn't Jimmy the babyface here, like being overlooked? He's got one less tag title reign, right? He's still basically subservient to Roman Reigns in the bloodline, and he's stuck there. He's the one that's got something to prove. I'm wondering if we're not going to see a double turn along the way to Mania, in which case that's going to book Jey out of the Intercontinental title picture, if that's the case, because I have a hard time not looking at Jimmy like, are we not looking over? Are we not overlooking the fact that they won all of the tag titles together?
Yeah.
In the first place, right? And they're identical twins. And like, have we publicly as wrestling fans somehow decided that Jey Uso is the more talented twin? I wouldn't say so. That seems not right to me. And so I'm as interested in that match as anything along the way to maybe if they are both going to stay in the singles division, a potential Intercontinental title opportunity. Right this second, the answer is I wouldn't do it. Could it happen? Could he be a great Intercontinental champion? Yeah. But yeah, to answer the question directly, that would be the case. But as far as I'm concerned, it's about Jimmy and Jay right this sec.
I honestly couldn't agree with you more, Clark. I think Jay, actually, going back to the 2K thing, I think Jay Uso is going to be like 89, maybe 90 this year again. But I think Jimmy's actually going to be about an 80. I really do think this year, because he's done next to nothing, he's going to have dropped down those rankings. And that's quite unfortunate too. But at the same time, I'm sure he's happy for his twin Jay doing so well. And he's still on TV every week. He's still, doing everything on TV. But from a kayfabe perspective, he's mostly losing. Bobby Petito would like to see Jey Uso defend an Intercontinental Championship against Bron Breakker, Trick Williams, and Carmelo Hayes. Ooh, those would be fun matches. And Nowhere Gamers Chronicle says El Idolo Andrade dethrones Gunther, and Anthony Mazzano agrees with him, kind of, I think. Or is that unrelated? That is unrelated, but he thinks Andrade should join the LWO and that make that story a little bit more interesting. I think that certainly could happen. But yeah, I mean, this Gunther reign, we'll get into it in just a second when we predict the WrestleMania card. But it's been such a great reign, and now it's starting to, come to the time when you're like, okay, we need to figure out what the ending to this reign is going to be so Gunther can move on to, bigger things, I guess. Although, does he need to lose the Intercontinental Championship to get to that point? We'll discuss that later on. There's a little bit of a tease for you guys there. But next question is a little bit more of a statement than a question, I guess. But Thomas.Ryan on Instagram is asking, why does AEW keep creating more factions instead of developing more top stars? Well, I don't think those two things necessarily are, have a correlation. Yeah, I don't think there's a correlation there. But you are right, there's a lot of factions. And it's the criticism AEW's been getting from a lot of people. There's certain factions, such as House of Black, where it makes a lot of sense. It makes perfect sense they're together and they're a great faction. But then there's others in the company, and it's always been this way as well. This isn't something new. It's been this way since the pandemic, where there's just factions thrown together and you're a bit like, why? And then you see, I mean, I think Toa, I've forgotten his second name, I feel so bad, but Toa something from the Gates of Agony is competing in singles action this week on Dynamite.
I'm thinking Tongaloa, which is wrong, but
yeah, that's what I almost did too.
I'm brain scrambled for a second. Can someone help us out in the comments?
Please, somebody help us out in the comments here. But Toa is competing on Dynamite this week, and he's been, he's in the Gates of Agony. He's been on Dynamite a lot, and he's been announced for a match, I believe it is against Hangman Page, and the Instagram comments are all either who or why should we care? And it's like, this guy is great. He's been his tag team has been showcased multiple times and all that, but they are right. They've not given us a reason to actually care about the Gates of Agony. They've not even told us really much of what their names are. And I know that's tag team, not a faction, but they're in a Toa Leona. That's it.
Thank you, Manzano. Sorry, I'm just like, we're good.
But it's like they need to give a reason to care. They can't just chuck people in a faction and expect us to care about the lackeys in the faction, for a better word. They need to introduce us to everybody, person by person. And a few years ago, that was the beauty of the Bullet Club in New Japan, right? Where every wrestler had their own identity. And I'm going to start putting my graphic designer hat on for a second here and break it down from this aspect, right? The Bullet Club logo was a template. And then each wrestler in Bullet Club had a different t-shirt with their nickname on and a different symbol, but a symbol in the style of the Bullet Club logo. And it worked perfectly. Each wrestler had their own identity, but they all got linked together with one identity, which is the Bullet Club identity, right? Because you can't have a faction with people with all different identities. You need to have a link between them, but they all need to be slightly different as well. And Bullet Club in, 2016, 2017, 2018 nailed that. Now, It's oversaturated. It's become a bit of a nightmare. But that's how to do a faction. It really, really is, especially a big faction. Smaller factions, they're a bit easy. Obviously, the Shield, that their identity was phenomenal.
Right.
Undisputed Era, even.
Your
But
Moxley.
there are too many factions. I mean, Clark, what was your thoughts on this?
I gotta say though, on the developing stars thing, like I think you covered the faction aspect of it perfectly, and I wouldn't still say too many factions. That doesn't really bother me. Actually, I think there's a way to operate with star power within those factions. But let's not forget, Hangman Adam Page developed star, top star. Darby Allin developed top star, right? I mean, Orange Cassidy developed maybe not a top star, but up there, high on the card. Main events at a pay-per-view in the last calendar year, right? Like, and then you add in, oh yeah, who's main eventing WrestleMania? The guy that got kicked to the curb, and where did he develop before he signed? Oh, AEW, Cody Rhodes. That's right. Oh, that is right. So developing top stars, I do not think is the issue. He developed quite a few stars over the years, right? On their own, some, and others. You look at what Swerve Strickland's accomplished. Swerve never got even approaching the push that he's gotten in AEW in the WWE construct, right? And Swerve Strickland's on his way to the moon right now. So I don't think it's faction, and he's in a faction. Go figure, right? Technically. But I don't think it's necessarily faction related. I think they're two separate issues conversationally. You know what I'm saying? It's not. Yeah. There may be the faction market may be too oversaturated, and developing stars is a different thing. I don't think developing stars is the problem. It's sustaining star power. MJF, the biggest developed star of them all, I would say. I think pretty much consensus here. If you disagree with that one,
in AEW, undoubtedly.
I don't know. As far as in AEW is concerned, right? Yeah, hasn't been on TV since World's End. Now I get that's part of storyline, but it's also a major loss. We miss the guy, and part of that will make it better when he returns. And some of that is the brilliance of professional wrestling as a whole. But I don't think the top stars in the factions are truly related. I'm actually weirded. I would be more concerned that we don't see more faction on faction rivalry directly where it evens out. And then you have storylines that can kind of spider web off of that. I think that's how you're going to operate if you have this many factions. But I think the factions aren't the root of the problem.
But they are a problem.
But there are ways that we can operate better using factions. Right? They can become a problem. I don't think the reason that there is an issue is because there's a lot of factions, I guess is what I would say, Ben.
We've got Nowhere Gamers Chronicles saying the white hat for publicist is very intelligent.
Thank you.
You're getting some praise for once, Clark, at least. But I do agree with what you did say there. Anthony Manzano is saying he thinks AEW's obsession with factions is more to do with that, as he doesn't think Tony has faith in some of his own talent that they can stand on their own. I think he just likes factions. I don't think it's that he's not got faith. I think he just likes factions. Yeah. But if you're going to do a faction, you need to do it well, and you can't introduce tons at the same time. New Japan have tons, but they introduced them one by one, and I think he skipped a few steps and rushed a few steps.
I also think, and just to toss in one more thing, I think another factor is a lot of the reason that there's so many factions is we've talked about the bloated roster size in the past, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to get everybody on TV, if they enter as a faction, you can put 5 people on TV as opposed to 1. And that's something that I think is that is more the root of the problem than it is the factions, because it's just to get them all on TV. And then you're going, wait a minute, who's that? Why are they here too? In this particular instance, whether it's a match, whether it's a promo segment, I think that's where more trouble happens. That's where I think the Blackpool Combat Club is actually shockingly been decently executed. As much as I would like to complain about them, they do still operate individually, and they team up when they need to.
They really need to shrink that roster. They really do. And it sucks to say, because we want to see as many wrestlers you want to see as many wrestlers as, being able to, have jobs as possible. But there are jobs on the independents, there are jobs in Ring of Honor, all these places. But the reality is, I do think the size of their roster is hurting their product, and therefore hurting the size of their audience, which long term is actually going to mean there's less jobs. So, Hey, that's a discussion for another day. It's a discussion we've already had.
No doubt.
And it's certainly a controversial one. I know that Numero One Superfly says that he definitely agrees. It's not that they don't have enough stars. It's just they're trying to sustain their star power. Like, Wardlow became a top star, and then he ended up destroying another faction. You're right. They don't... When certain stars have a lot of momentum, they don't capitalize on it well enough. That is undoubtedly the truth. We've seen it over and over again in AEW. There have been cases such as with MJF where they have done it, but they've done it, missed quite a few times. They've just missed the chance. Whereas WWE are very good, and if star has momentum, of just pushing them, even if it wasn't in the plans. And I mean, that's how we saw the push of Daniel Bryan, wasn't it, really? And LA Knight more recently. But now, let's move on. Let's move on to talk about WrestleMania. WrestleMania 40, to be specific, in just a couple of months' time. Of course, this past weekend, we saw the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. It's WrestleMania season, baby. And I am hyped. I really, really am. It's the best time of a year to be a wrestling fan. And this WrestleMania season, I'm just as excited as ever. But now I'm going to predict the WrestleMania 40 card 2 months early. For the United States Championship, I believe Logan Paul will still be champion and will be defending against LA Knight. Then, for the women's tag, I believe the Kabuki Warriors will be defending against Pippa Niven and Chelsea Green. And Naomi and Jade Cargill. Of course, Jade Cargill eliminated Naomi from the Royal Rumble, and I reckon we're going to see a little bit of a feud between the two before they team up as a team at WrestleMania and then feud after that. Then for the men's tag, I think we're going to have DIY versus The New Day versus Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, and versus Humberto and Angel Garza. And I think that'll be in a ladder match for the tag team championships. And I believe, that's their yearly, just, really fun multi-man tag match. And match, that's certainly a tongue twister. But I honestly would love to see those 4 teams in the ring together. Then, for the World Women's Championship, I believe Rhea Ripley will be defending against Becky Lynch. They've been teasing it all year. They've been keeping them away from each other all year. It just makes sense. Then, for the WWE Women's Championship, I think Io Sky will be defending against the Royal Rumble winner, Bayley. I think that's a no-brainer. But I also do think that this should main event night 1 of WrestleMania. Last year, the women didn't get a main event. This year, give it to them. Bayley is the only one of the 4 horsewomen not to main event WrestleMania, and that is a stat they've brought up multiple times. Well, this year, this is your chance. You've told the story. Damage hasn't been controlled. And yeah, let's see it happen. Main event. Let them control some damage. Let's see some damage. Io Sky, Bayley, main event of night 1. But for the World Heavyweight Championship, I don't think we're going to be getting Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, because I think we're going to be getting CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. But instead, I think Drew McIntyre, tongue twister again. I think Seth Rollins will be defending against Gunther. They teased it before Seth went away, and I think that's the match they're going to do. The Intercontinental Champion Gunther will be competing for the world title against Seth Rollins in what will be a banger of a bout, no doubt. But then, for the Universal Championship, the main event of WrestleMania, I think it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns with The Rock as a special guest referee. And I think Roman Reigns will retain in that match. As I keep saying, I don't think he's going to lose it until the new TV deals. But that is my predictions for WrestleMania. My early predictions, and we got DMorale95 saying, well, are DIY going in tag team champions then? Yes, because I think Damian Priest and Finn Balor are losing them tonight. And I believe we're getting Priest versus Balor non-title at WrestleMania. We got some people talking in the chat about, you might as well say it. I might as well say it. because the amount of comments we are actually getting about this now. Some people are speculating about a Punk injury or something like that. Listen, until it's official, we don't cover it here at Wrestling Republic. We're not a dirt sheet. Like I said earlier, we keep our sheets clean. It's easy. You use a washer, you chuck it in, put a bit of, what's it called? Laundry powder in, or detergent, is it? You guys call it in the US?
Detergent.
And
fabric
you shut the
softener
door.
if you like softer.
Yeah, you like your bed sheets clean and soft.
Yeah.
You press, on, then you bring them out, you put them in the tumble dryer, they all dry. A quick tip, if you don't like ironing, you take them out fast, put them away, and then you don't have to iron if you do it fast enough because they're still warm, so the creases will just fall out. Here's some tips. Washing tips with Ben, eh? Well, that's what we're getting to here.
We got it.
But Clark, what about you? What is your WrestleMania 40 early card predictions?
Until otherwise, I'm going to just get this one out of the way first. I've still got Punk Rollins for the world title. I think that's kind of a no-doubter here. Pending health, I understand that. But pending health, I believe that we'll still get to see that. As far as the women's world title is concerned, I've got Ripley and Becky Lynch. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, come on. Take my money. I'm in. Yeah. Build a great rivalry and make it the first really great rivalry of this Ripley reign where Becky looks like a threat. And we know about the violence that this match is going to bring because it should. When Becky's passionate, when Becky's into it and ready to go, we might even get the man this time. I'd love to see the man versus Ripley. If we can get some form of that version of Becky Lynch to come out, I would be beyond excited. That one is also a no-brainer to me. Let's go with the WWE Women's Championship next. Io Sky and Bayley. I'm on the exact same page as you on that one. No doubt Bayley, the right person, won the Rumble. I think she deserved it. And not only that, I think she goes over in this match. Women's tag titles wise with the Kabuki Warriors, that's where I'm most interested. Is there some scenario where maybe Dakota Kai ends up with another partner and ends up on Bayley's side and maybe is who ends up feuding with the Kabuki Warriors, because there isn't necessarily a logical challenger in my eyes thus far, but that would make sense. And splitting up Damage Control, who can really control the damage to Damage Control, maybe Bayley at the helm with Dakota and someone else. I'm not sure who the third would be. There's plenty of good choices. Maybe reunite Tegan Knox and Dakota. Why not? I know it's out of left field, but they have plenty of history.
Yeah.
You remember their friendship could have been a great tag team too. It is the main roster. Time has passed. As they say, cliche wise, time heals all. I mean, not bad. I'm going to go with that for that prediction there. Intercontinental title wise, this is where we finally start to disagree. I think that's where we see Drew McIntyre. I think we're seeing the slugfest. McIntyre, Gunther, and this is where Gunther's reign finally ends. I think McIntyre wins the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. It makes sense. He has a WrestleMania moment and then starts complaining again about it. But it wasn't the WWE title. Doesn't quite trash the Intercontinental title, but maybe loses it back quickly or something similar to that. Not totally sure, but that's just the way that I personally would book that one. As far as the U.S. title with Logan Paul. Mm-hmm. This has to be a multi-person match in my eyes. I think we gotta see, because I don't know what KO and Sammy are doing. Why don't we get both in here?
Well, Sammy's on the other brand.
Title. I know he is, technically, but figure that out. He makes perfect sense in a multi-person match for the U.S. title. Make the U.S. title look good. He's been great in situations. Logan Paul can go in a different way, obviously, than Johnny Knoxville can, but he's been great in situations like that in the past. Add Sammy to that match, maybe even a fourth, maybe even one more. Stack the deck against Logan Paul, and we'll see what happens from there. But I think this has to be a multi-person match over on the U.S. title side in my eyes. I would rather see the LWO Legado storyline paid off in a way where the rivalry is so big, the belts don't matter. I don't think they need the United States title to be involved in the LWO storyline or the Legado storyline. So let's save that for later, right? I've seen enough Mysterios and Logan Paul for my personal taste, I guess is the way that I would put it. And that's neither here nor there. But of course, finally, main event wise, title match wise, I covered all the titles there, right? I believe I've only got one left.
Yeah, just the one.
Yep. just the one, right?
Yeah, the one.
Yep, just the one.
Time's running though.
It's Roman and Cody, and it's Roman gets the win again, and unfortunately the story isn't finished, but Roman, it's gonna be an instant replay, is the best way I could put that one.
Nobody's agreeing with us about this stuff. The Instagram being very, very harsh to us. Us thinking Roman Reigns is going to retain.
Life.
We're not saying we want this to happen, by the way. We're not saying we want Roman to win. It's just we think he's going to win.
I want him to win.
Oh, Clark's a Cody hater. But I mean, it's gonna be a fun one, that's for sure. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you are watching on Spotify, please leave us a cheeky 5 stars. If you're on Instagram, like, subscribe on other platforms too. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. All that good stuff. Thank you guys for being so active in the comments today. We really do appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow for the Raw review and Raw after Rumble. Let's hope it's better than Raw after Mania. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.